Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Strickland. I'm your host Shwin. In this episode 526, I'm joined, as always, for the moment, by my co-host Drew, aka Doug, aka Drug. Drew, Doug, Drug. How you doing?
Doing all right with just trying to live my life to the fullest.
Well, that's all we can do for now,
That's all we can do,
and
right?
it's all we have is the life that we're currently living, and
That's correct.
we're gonna live it, and we're gonna try to say all the right things that don't offend all the right people.
That is
Uh,
correct. Absolutely. Nothing
yep.
offensive will ever be said.
Nope. We're not trying to ruffle any feathers here. All right. We're gonna not ruffle any feathers, but before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First, the Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may watch this podcast. If you haven't done those already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, comment, that'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise you can find on our website, www.strick.land. There's a link that takes you to merchandise stores, all kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland's podcast that I host every Friday, normally with Prez, but currently with Doug. You also get access to Texture My Face Bozos, a podcast hosted by Drew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, the pod that I host with YC, where I rant and rave about the next even more. You also get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Constantine Machkos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. There's $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on private recordings, merchandise discounts, and potentially goes to a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe. Not only is it possible without you, and then it's going to be possible without our sponsor, FanDuel. Thank you to FanDuel. All right, I want to do a little exercise. This is the exercise.
I'm ready.
So, the Knicks are obviously very actively in the process of rounding out their roster. Now, part of this involves them signing these Exhibit 9 contracts, Exhibit 10 contracts. I'm not going to bore anybody with the different details, differentiating the two. They're all effectively training camp deals, and we will see how they round out the roster. Now, there has been smoke that maybe they're going to move Tyler Kolek off the roster to clear the roster space for a player like Malcolm Brogdon, in addition to Landry Shamet, since currently they only have space for one veterans minimum addition. Moving off of Kolek would give them space for another. There's also been murmurs that they may even be motivated to move Consolidation because that would open up space for them to later in the year add a prorated veterans minimum player. I don't know the exact date. I believe it's January, February at some point. And that would hold appeal to them. It's also been mooted that Deuce McBride could also be one that they would look to move on from to clear said space for that additional kind of veterans minimum player that they could add then to the roster later in the year. Now, I don't want to. I already did the fucking Kolek and the Dadier discussion, even the Deuce discussion with Stacey. So I don't want to bore anybody with repeating this stuff. The long and short of it is, 100% understand why they would move on from Kolek. I would understand if they moved off Dadier, even though I think that's a little bit soon and doesn't really make sense to me considering the type of prospect he was when he was drafted and the trajectory you had him on. And I would be firmly against any type of pure salary dump of Deuce McBride, even one that returned a nominal asset. I would be against because you're trying to win a championship. I think if the argument is you want to, I think Deuce McBride is 100% better than any veterans minimum player probably going to sign, and certainly probably better than anybody you're going to get on a prorated veterans minimum in the middle of the year, which would be kind of the added appeal of moving on from him versus Tyler Kolek. So I'm not for that. Large adult and very, very mature son, Mitchell Robinson. And what I will say, and I will pose this to you, is let's just say let's approach this first with why might they do this? Right? Why would you do this? Right? We've talked endlessly that, and I think this is largely accepted at this point, about how impactful Mitchell Robinson is when he's on the floor, how vital he has been really to all of their playoff series victories over the last 3 years. And, why in a season and in a window where you're trying to compete for a championship, the injury risk is real, but you kind of roll the dice because how many players are able to replicate what he can give you, right? Very, very few players. Okay. That's now that's said. And we both agree Deuce McBride is definitely not as impactful as Mitchell Robinson, but a very good player who has a very particular skill set that the Knicks lack on the roster. If you take him out of the equation, and really they're then left with two good perimeter defenders in the form of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. So, that's a little dicey too. Anyway, now the reason why I think the Knicks, I'm just kind of, there's some smoke out there. So I want to try to think about, why would the Knicks even consider packaging these two players together or trading them separately for that matter? But why would that be the case? Now, Mitchell Robinson is extension eligible. We know that. He's entering the last year of his contract. Not been a lot of smoke, but I don't think the Knicks. So obviously they cannot extend him right now, but that is looming on the horizon. He also will be a free agent at the end of the 2026-27 season. And the other thing we know about the Knicks salary cap situation right now is they are very, 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 very tight up against the second apron right now. As things stand, they have $3.7 million in space to the second apron. They need to get to one. They need to fill one more roster spot for sure. They have to do that to be compliant with, the fucking roster limits. Right? 14 players have to be on the big roster. One veteran's minimum is 2.2. It's 2.296 basically, 2.296 million. So they would obviously, they're right there. They're very, very tight up against the second apron here. Now that we understand the kind of state of play, they're very tight against the second apron. They have these extension stuff looming. Maybe they are apprehensive about extending these players, whatever the case may be. Do you think that's at least a reasonable starting point to consider what you could possibly get in a package for these guys? Or do you think that you just would rather, forget what you would rather do? Or do you at least think it's reasonable? Do you think it's reasonable to at least be let's at least see what's out there?
It's definitely reasonable for Mitchell Robinson. I think most of us at the Strickland, at least, while he was injured, I know, I could say myself included on this one, we're fine with trading him, and it never.
Oh, we were all super in his corner, and none of us ever had any doubt.
Yeah, never had any doubt, right? But it is there. There is an argument. It's unfortunate because, given salary cap restrictions, people will have to be cut. We just saw with the Celtics, right? They were up against the second apron or over it.
Yeah.
They're just all right, we got to trade Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, right? It's kind of the nature now of this NBA, and Mitch would be an interesting one because I don't really know what the market would be for him, because the market right now, I think it for agency as we're seeing right now is kind of resetting because of this new the new salary cap stuff. So I wish I had a better gauge on that. Because he's technically expiring, I would look to. I think there's an argument that you say you could look to move him, and it would potentially hurt the Knicks in the immediate, right? Because he's by far their best. Well, maybe not best. You could probably say he's the best defensive player on the Knicks, right? Or OG, right? I know they're different positions though.
I would say that Yeah, it's different, and obviously the center is going to always be more impactful for that reason. But like he is more impactful, so you can almost say the most
Yes.
impactful.
Yeah, so I can at least say like if someone wants to be like, no, OG's the best defensive player, that's fine. I'm not really gonna like quarrel with anyone. Like that's fair. Because of
Okay.
that, like that is a huge loss because like we've seen Towns at the 5, and it's really not that good. Like Ariel Hukporty showed like some signs that like he could be a potential backup in the NBA. I don't think he's going to be anywhere close to Mitchell Robinson, but like there is, I think, at least some sort of plan. If you're like, okay, if we move Mitchell Robinson for some either cheaper salary or draft picks or however you want to negotiate it, you could at least say that there is a backup in Ariel Hukporty. Like some idea. Like I think he's fine. I liked what I saw, but like I don't know where he's going to be. So like there's a plus you have all the injury stuff, but we know he's super talented, and I think that's not for debate. The McBride stuff I think is a little significantly trickier because like you mentioned, he's under contract not only this year but next year. He's much cheaper than Mitch. And he's I think he's actually plays all like he's on in terms of the depth chart like really important because without if you take not McBride, but if you take McHale out, there's really no one guarding that initial action for any of the offense. Like it's unless what's his name, our boy Mike Brown like changes things up. But like Deuce is the best defensive perimeter player in terms of just like all right, regarding the initial action, just someone who's able to read what the offense is going to do on a pick and roll, navigate the screens, know where to be at the right time, that type of stuff. He's going to be a lot harder to replace, and I'm trying to I was about to look up and see what veteran is going to be available at like that prorated rate, who's going to have that same sort of defensive impact. Like, I don't remember if this happened. Like, is Marcus Smart going to be released and become one of those guys? Because like, I don't like. There's really no answer. I think you could find a big. It's both are going to hurt the depth, but I think you can potentially get away with trading Mitch, unfortunately, compared to the Deuce, because like someone's going to sign him. I don't know how much he's going to go for in free agency, but like he will have a market because I think everyone knows when he's healthy, he's one of the best defensive centers. He's by far the best offensive rebounder in the league. He creates such a significant advantage on the boards that you have to like game plan around it. Like it's gonna be it would be a tough loss, but he unfortunately makes the most sense. Just in terms of all that, like I think he would go Mitch, then Deuce. If you could package them together to get like I don't know who. I think by the contracts we're looking at, well, like you have to get someone who's like in the 16 million range or
Well,
like
we'll get to that.
17.
We'll get to that. I have all
Okay.
the math. I'll have all the math.
Okay, you have all the math, but like if you do that, you would have to find someone who could provide that sort of impact. And I at least for me, I'm just doing like a quick look like if you can do like Aneka Kongwu, I don't know if he would be available, but that's the type of player you kind of need to be thinking someone who could play with Towns, play different positions in the front court. Like that could potentially work. Other than that, like you're kind of it's tough. It really is. It's tough. They're like running against the second apron in this current salary cap for the league it's really going to be tricky. And that's why I don't really like the idea of trading Dadier at all because like I just like his salary. They will have his bird rights. They will have restricted free agency with him. It just makes sense to me, at least, keeping him on the roster because you have control over him for at least at most, or I should say, like 7 years. So like I want to do that because that's going to be cost controlled. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If you were to like pick and choose, like I would pick Mitch. as the guy. I don't want to, but like he would be the first guy because I think he's the more flexible guy to trade. Deuce's salary is so low that there's really no one who's like comparable in terms of like impact in that salary who like someone's willingly going to trade out of. Like I think he would need like a rookie, and I don't think anyone's going to trade like a rookie for Deuce like that. So I think it would have to be Mitch.
Generally agree with all that. At least in terms of if you were going to trade these guys, what the logic would be, is it reasonable, whatever. So this is the exercise though, right? So the Knicks,
Okay.
if you cobble both of their salaries together, they amount to about $17.287 million. Now,
Okay.
remember, the Knicks have about $3.717 million in space up to the second apron. But they need to keep at least $2.296 million free after the trade to sign one single veterans minimum player.
Okay. So we're talking like 18 millions basically.
It is 18.708 million precisely.
Okay.
If they want to keep a second veterans minimum available open, that comes to 16.412 million that you can take back after trading both players. So let's use our handy dandy cheat sheet here and let's play a game. Hold on one second. I'm going to do a very cool thing.
I'm ready for it.
We are going to look at that. Look at that. Look at that. We're sharing a screen. We're sharing the screen.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay,
this is gonna be great. This is great for the audio listeners.
So we're at 16.4 basically that we can take back. So everything here, Klay Thompson, you are not eligible because we want 2 veterans minimum slots open, right? Okay. So this is the first guy, Bogdanovic. I think we're both saying no, right? No.
I would say no. I don't think he really fits what they're looking for. He's a good player. I just don't think he fits the team.
Okay. But I'm also just not going to trade Mitch and Deuce for Bogdan.
Also like no to that.
Okay. So we're not trading Mitch and Deuce for Max Strus, right? We're good with that?
I think that's fair.
We are not going to trade Mitch and Deuce for Terrence Mann.
Absolutely not.
We are not going to trade Mitch and Deuce for Paolo Banchero, and the Magic are certainly not going to trade Paolo Banchero to us for Mitch and Deuce.
Would be.
We're good on that. We don't need to have the Paolo debate because of that.
Could you imagine if that happened, though? That would be absolutely hysterical.
It would be certainly a trade. It would break many people's brains.
It would exist.
Okay, so now we get to a guy that you named. You said Onyeka Okongwu, 15 million. 15 million this year, 16.12 the year after, 16.8 the year after that. So you get a center who's under contract for the next 3 years, and you open up 2 veterans minimum slots. Are you pulling the trigger on that deal? For me, and I'm just going to say this, I like Okongwu. I think he's a good player. I think there are people that are still very romantic about the idea of him when he was coming in as a prospect and he was getting like BAM comps.
I do remember that.
So like I like him. I'm not doing that trade. But what do you think?
I don't, because Atlanta's also pushing, some of their pushing the stuff to get into the playoffs, make a run, that type of stuff. I don't know if they would do it. I would only do it if I had some sort of idea of like who the other veterans
really the value here
would be, because like other than that, like you both have Mitch and Deuce. Like like Atlanta would secure at least for a year the defense at the 5 and defense at the 1, right? You know what I mean? Like they kind of have like a huge defensive upgrade for them, even though it would be for a short period of time if they decide not to re-sign either of them. But like if you want to say Okongwu's better than either of them, like people can have that discussion. I think Atlanta would probably consider doing it, honestly. I
think
don't
Atlanta
know
does.
if huh?
I think Atlanta does it.
Yeah, like I think Atlanta would do it. I think that would be a really good deal for them. I would have to know more about Okongwu's salary heading into like the future with it to do it. But like that's kind of I think that's like the idea of where it would go. But like I think I'm leaning towards no on Okongwu. I would again, I don't know. I would just lean towards no at this point with him.
Okay. I mean, again, these are critical times because the Knicks are obviously chasing a championship currently on FanDuel. They are plus 950 to win the finals. They are plus 320 to come out of the East. They are the third highest. They have the third best or third lowest odds, I guess you should say, to win the championship, or the third best odds to win the championship. I guess maybe that's the best way to say it. And then they have the second best odds to win the East. So these decisions we're making are very, very important, Doug, in our imagination. Okay, the next, I agree. I would not do this for Okongwu. The next guy on the list, Jonathan Isaac. I'm hard no on him. He's major, like he makes Mitch look like Iron Man, and
yeah,
I don't want to deal with him, like on a personal level at all. So that's that. I don't know.
yeah.
Are you good on
I'm out on.
Isaac?
I'm good on him too. Like, look, if he wasn't like such an injury, like if he didn't start getting like the injury stuff after his second year, I would be like, yeah, I'd be interested in him. He looked like a pretty promising player, especially like defensive versatility and everything. He's you're just getting like the 3-4 version of Mitch in Jonathan Isaac, and you just have him locked up, and it's like, no, I'll keep Mitch.
Okay, so we're keeping Mitch here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next player on the list here, Isaiah Stewart, $15 million next this year, the year after, and the year after that. So 3 years, $45 million. The final year is a team option, so only $30 million guaranteed remaining on his contract. So again, a player that the Knicks have had interest in for a while, previously anyway. I don't know. I'm not, again, like, I would not want to do this